Hi, my name is Nathan Bailey. I'm a business coach for creatives. I help them to get clarity and confidence so they don't feel stuck and overwhelmed and they don't give up on their business. This is my story.
Welcome to the Fair Business Australia podcast. Future-proof your business, impact your community. I'm your host, Rebecca Lloyd.
Welcome, Fair Business Australians, to another episode of the Fair Business Australia podcast. Chat to Beck. Lovely to see you again. Today, I have with me, probably I'm his ideal client, and you might be very well his ideal client too, but let's have a chat to Nathan Bailey, the founder, CEO of Simplify Business Coaching, a coaching initiative for creatives. Nathan, welcome. Thank you for being on the show. You are from Melbourne. Sorry about that for the last 2 years, but that's not what this podcast is about, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to us about yourself. Who is Nathan? Who do you help? Simplify Business Coaching. Let's go with who do you help first?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to have a chat today, Rebecca. I help people really who get lost in business. And in particular, I help creatives. So if you think about it, when your car's not running very well, you get a mechanic and they're going to help find out what's the problem in your car, how to fix it so that you can really run well in your car and get to where you want to go. And that's what I do as a business coach. So I'm looking at your business and saying, where is it not working well and how can we make it fix the issues to actually get your business running the way you want it to. The reason I love working with creatives is creatives actually help people to find beauty, and beauty reveals truth. So we have an opportunity to actually have more beauty and more truth in our lives if we can release creatives to do what they do best. But unfortunately, lots of creatives actually get lost in the minutiae of business because they're fantastic at their passion. They're not so good on the systems and structure side of business. And so I love to come into those people and into their businesses and say, hey, let's get a lot of this stuff that's distracting you out of the way so you can focus on what you're best at every day.
So good. So I'd like to address the elephant in the room right from the start. I am personally quite passionate about systems. Starting, yes. Finishing is a struggle for me, although I do force myself. The creative elephant in the room, I think, is you either have to be creative or be a business person. You can't possibly be both. And quite often your creative endeavours will not be celebrated until after you've chopped off an ear and died, and a couple of years later people go, oh, wasn't that a fantastic artist? So can creatives actually be business people as well, or do we need to keep the two separate?
It's a great question, and it's actually something a lot of artists struggle with, and many other creatives as well, is that they love what they do, but not everything that they do generates money. And so it's like, well, can I be an authentic creative and actually do what I'm passionate about if I'm just focused on selling things to people? And the answer is, of course, yes, you can do both, but you need to separate what it is that gives you life and meaning and purpose and joy from what is really the marketplace is wanting and desiring. And so you need to start to think about that as two separate experiences. Here's the stuff I love to do. I'm in a room on my own. I'm exploring. I'm creating. It's great. It's passionate. It's fun. And then some of that becomes a product you can sell to other people, but not all of it. And that when people understand the difference between those two things, it actually really frees them up to go, oh, I can be a creative and do everything I want and pursue all the ideas I want, but not put pressure on myself to make all of those ideas make money.
I see. So in this corporate world, this whole, capitalistic society, that whether you love it or you hate it, we are in capitalism at the moment, that I feel that there tends to be this validity thing of, if I'm not making money, is it even a valid craft? Or am I whoring myself out just to make money, which actually invalidates my craft? So do you have those objections come through to you as well as a business coach for creatives?
100%. Often people feel like either what I'm doing is not valuable and people don't want to buy it, as you say, or if I do stuff for the marketplace, then it's not really art anymore. Now I'm just pandering to an audience, or as you say, almost wearing yourself out. So I think people need to understand that the reason so if I was an artist, if I'm a painter, the reason I got into painting is because it brings a level of freedom and release to me. And the reason I want to share my art is because I want to share that experience of freedom and release. So we want, if I've got this amazing picture of a landscape And every time I look at it, it brings me relaxation and peace. And I think, oh, wow, that's just my happy place to go to. If I can share that with you, then I'm actually really giving you a gift of freedom and peace. And that's powerful in today's world where there's so much anxiety and stress and overwhelm. And so that's what I'm trying to help people to see is it's not just the product that you're creating, it's the result, the outcome that it produces that is really valuable and that people want to pay for. So you may not think a painting is worth that much, but it's the result the painting brings into someone's life when they walk into the kitchen and they see that painting on the wall, and that sets the tone for their day. That's powerful.
I love that. Now, I can so speak to this and resonate with everything that Nathan said. Most of you will know, some of you won't. Pre-COVID, I was actually a professional singer. I made my bread and butter with the craft. It wasn't enjoyable. I made a lot of sacrifices, played in a lot of gigs that I probably wouldn't have liked to play, competing with the pokey machines and all that back in the day, breathing in cigarette smoke because I have been going for a long time. But I feel like as a creative, Nathan, often we creatives, we don't like all that boring stuff, that systematized stuff. And so we tend to take that side of things and palm that off to someone else, which at the end of the day, as long as they're getting their cut, they don't really care what the artist gets, as long as they're making their cut. And then as an artist, you get in all these dingy, divey, lousy places and you think, oh, I must not be that good. But it's because there's a disconnect between your craft and the ability to communicate your craft before you actually get on the stage of whatever is your artistic endeavors. So do you want to speak to that? Why do creatives so desperately want to just leave the money to someone else, leave the hard work to someone else? I just want to get up there and stay pure to my craft. But then they feel extremely disappointed when how much effort they put into the stage performance versus the amount of money that ends up in the bank account at the end of the month. And you just think, well, why even bother? Because nobody appreciates me. And this is a terrible way to make money. And anyway, over to you. I'm now ranting.
It is such a common problem, though, because people make great products and nobody knows about it. And so one of the things I like to say is it's not actually the quality of your product that makes your business. It's the quantity of your marketing. So it's how much you are sharing about what it is that you do to the right audience that wants what you want, that is going to make your product be successful or your singing be successful. So yes, you're probably an amazing singer. Unfortunately, I haven't heard you sing, but I'm sure it'd be fantastic. But if you don't have the way to connect with people, and particularly the people who love your style of singing and the songs that you sing, then you could be the most amazing person in the world and still not create a lifetime income. My target number for people is $100,000 a year. So I find a lot of creatives are stuck in about the 20 to 40 grand, and that's not enough to go full time. You've really got to generate about $100,000 a year to be able to let go of a job. Otherwise, you might as well do a job because the job is less stressful for the same amount of money. And so, I think what people need to understand is what is it that I'm doing and what's the impact on people's lives so that I can find out who wants that and then I can market to those people. So what am I doing? Who is it for? And why do they want it? And when you can answer those questions, you can make sticky marketing. And what sticky marketing is it has to be specific. So a great example of this is the guy I was talking to once. Often when I go out and have conversations with people, they're like, what do you do? I say, I'm a business coach. And they say, what does that look like? And then I do a little workshop with them. What is it you do? And, what kind of problems are you facing and help them with that. So there's this guy and he had this notebook of proverbs. And it was a really unique notebook and it sounded really interesting. And I said, well, who are you selling it to? And he said, oh, everyone. And I said, no, you can't sell it to everyone because if you sell it to everyone, you're selling it to no one. You've got to think about a market for which this is really powerful and poignant and timely. So what about if you were selling this to people who have someone just graduating high school? So you're finishing year 12 and you think, I'd love to give that person a gift to celebrate the fact that they're finishing high school. Here's this book of Proverbs. Suddenly this becomes really specific and sticky. It's like, ooh, that's a great gift for somebody finishing high school. I'd love to give that to you. And so now instead of being this kind of, book of Proverbs, I guess that sounds interesting, maybe. It's like, no, there's not many other gifts I can think of that would be fantastic for a year 12 gift. This is really good. And so now that it's become specific, it's become sticky. Part of the challenge is, when people hear about this, they're like, oh, but if I only market to year 12 grads, what about the 30-year-old person who also wants a book of Proverbs? Will they feel excluded? But that's actually not what happens. The more specific you are, the stickier you are, and then other people will opt in. So the person who sees that's like, oh, yeah, that's great for your 12 people, but actually I'd love a book of Proverbs too. And so they'll opt in and buy it as well. So you're not excluding them. You're actually making your marketing more effective, and you're more likely to attract even the people who are outside. But if you market to everybody, then you're not sticky, and nobody really gets attached to your marketing and your message.
So good. So I'm going to overcome another objection myself before Nathan keeps talking. Those of you who are creative that just go, okay, I've got that information, great. I'm just going to go now, and I'm going to just niche down, and I'm going to do that. Just hold your horses, because we have shiny object syndrome. We're creatives. We love the latest, greatest, next thing. Nathan, why is it so important to not just race off when you think you know your lines? Why is it so important to come at this from a systematized approach where we understand our ideal client, we understand the niche we go after, we understand the language that needs to be used, we understand which platforms we need to be on, we understand the journey from someone coming in top of funnel of, oh, this sounds interesting, right the way through to purchasing, and then after purchasing, the customer nurturing, because once someone buys from you, you want them to buy multiple times, or at least recommend you to their friends. So how can we not just run off with shiny object syndrome? Why should we still wait and then reach out to you at the appropriate time?
Great question. I think the challenge with shiny object syndrome actually is a little bit further down the hierarchy of needs, in terms of, if I've got a great idea and I start to pursue that idea, but it doesn't bring the results that I want, that's often when people go, oh, maybe it's the wrong idea, and maybe I'll find another idea. So there's two reasons people give up on great ideas. It's hard work, or they don't know how to move it forward. So it's too hard, or I don't know what to do next. But actually, I don't know if you know this about Facebook marketing. It takes about 2 months for a marketing campaign to really settle down and attract the right audience. So often what you'll see is people throw out Facebook ads, and they put them up for a week or two, and they say, nobody's clicking, nobody's buying, I'm just going to give up. And they're only a quarter of the way through the process that they would actually need to do to be successful. And so a lot of the time when people are looking for the next shiny object, they're actually not investing in the great idea they had last month that actually is going to give them results in another month. And so what I often encourage people to do is come back to the focus of what's the outcome that you're trying to deliver, the way that you help people, the impact that you give them, and what's the best way to do that, and invest in that idea until you get it working. So you need to, I talk about it as a sales laboratory. You need to experiment with all of the ingredients that are going to attract your audience to you. And then you get metrics around them, analytics around them, and you see which bits are working and which bits aren't. And you refine the bits that aren't working. But it's a laboratory. It's an experiment that you have to continue to refine until you get it right. So it's not a one-shot thing. I tried that. It didn't work. You've actually got to try it for a period of time. You've got to refine it. And then once you start to see it work, you can make a decision. Okay, maybe we're only getting, we're spending $100 in ads and we're only making $20 in sales. Okay, if we've looked at all our numbers and we can't improve it, then we take that process and we apply it to a different product. And we go, okay, now maybe we're starting to see $50 of sales on $100 of ads. Now we're getting closer. So you can change once you've got a system. But if you haven't developed a system, it may not be the product that's failing. It's probably the system that's failing.
So good, folks. I absolutely can attest to what Nathan is saying. I have probably the best ad builder on the face of the planet. Yes, she's amazing. And she says exactly the same thing. It takes a while for the algorithms to start to work for you. And the challenge is when you start to advertise your craft, your baby, everybody should love this because it's so amazing, and it doesn't work. Often as creatives, we can start to make these global statements of, I don't work, my craft is terrible, this whole thing is stupid, I should just go back and be a checkout operator or whatever it is, because we always go to the lowest common denominator as creatives, chop off my ear because the world is a terrible place, and it's often the system. And all work works. If you find something that doesn't work, then you are one step closer to inventing the light bulb. 999 ways that did not work. It doesn't mean that electricity or the light bulb was a terrible idea or a terrible thing or nobody would love it. It just meant that that particular thing didn't work. And I really like, Nathan, how you talk about it being a laboratory where you can be creative. You can say, okay, what about this? What about that? What about that? What if I add these two things together? And I think that can actually be the fuel for a creative person to actually stay engaged in the process when they know that at the end of the rainbow, there actually is a pot of gold. It's not just a full pipe dream.
Yes. I do think there is one important step before you go there. If you're working with a new product, the first thing you need to do is find 5 raving fans. And usually the way to do that is actually in person. So not to go online and spend a whole bunch of money doing marketing and Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff, because you don't know enough about the product and the audience yet. So you need to go out there. First of all, what is this and who wants it and why do they want it? And then go and find that person. So you get a bit of a picture of who they are. Where do they hang out? What kind of activities do they do? What's important to them? So a marketing avatar or a profile of your customer. And then you go find 5 of those people and you say, here's my product or service. Can you have a go with it and give me some feedback? I'm just looking for feedback. This is just market research. No pressure. You don't have to buy. I'm going to give you a free experience so that I can get some market research to make sure this is a great product. If you can find 5 people who love what you do, there's a market for it. If you can't find 5 people who love what you do, it's possible that you don't know how to do that yet, which is great. We can have a conversation. But if you do know how to do that and you can't find 5 people who love it, don't go invest a whole bunch of money online because you don't know if it's a great idea yet. You haven't established that there is a market for it. So that's the first step. I think sometimes people go straight from great idea to spending $1,000 a month doing advertising on Facebook. Too early.
I mean, stop reading my diary, Nathan. Stop reading my diary. Learned everything I learned through not listening to other people and learning the hard way and making my own mistakes. I think it's really challenging as a creative to slow down in order to speed up. But that product market fit, going out and asking those 5 people, that actually gives you your 5 testimonials to even get started, exactly. Which then is also your social proof before you even get started. So it's not a waste to go out there and just go slow to find that product market fit. So I think now that we've been discussing the what and the why, let's talk about the who. Can you give me a few stories about different creative people that you have helped? They came to you, they were here, they wanted to get there, they had the big chasm in the middle. The coaching was the bridge that get them across. Give us that crossing the bridge story for our beautiful creatives who are listening and are not yet convinced, even though they know that they've got their chasm, but is your coaching the bridge that they need to get across said chasm?
Fantastic question. One of my favorite examples is a new client who came to me. She was feeling a bit stressed and overwhelmed. The business was doing okay, but she just wasn't sure what to do next and felt like she was really busy. So lots of work and not lots of successful outcomes. And so we sat down, and so I'll do a free consult with people to understand map the territory and work out where the challenges are and whether we can work together. So we sat down and we worked together, and I worked out that she was doing 21 different activities, products and services. And so she did not realize that. So we only identified, I think, about 14 or 15 of them in our conversation. Then after we had the conversation, she sent me an email and said, I also do all these things. So 21 different things that she's trying to do to grow her business. It's just too many things. You can't hold that many things in your head at once. You've really got to, 2 or 3 things at once is the most that most people can do in starting out in a new business. So we sat down and we explored, okay, what's really important to you? What is it that, and so I asked her a question. I said, in the last year, what was the most meaningful moment for you in the business that you do over the last 12 months? And she sat there and she thought for a moment. And then she told a story of how there was this guy who'd been through a really difficult relational breakup and had a whole bunch of other negative stuff happening in his life. He came along to one of her painting classes. And there was a moment, so it's like an 8 to 10 week course. There's a moment at about week 2 or week 3 where suddenly he is being creative and validating that creative voice in himself. And it didn't just affect his ability to paint. It affected his ability to live his life. So he actually had a breakthrough moment, not just in his creativity, but in his self-worth. It's I can paint. I can do this. I actually have value. What I'm doing is meaningful. And it got him back on the track. Her passion is seeing people get healed through coming into alignment with their creative selves. That's her passion. And so they said, okay, well, if that's the most important thing to you is to have that moment of breakthrough where people actually come into alignment for their creative selves, which of your products does that most powerfully? Is it selling paints? Is it, a masterclass? Is it the, 8 to 10 week classes? Which of those things is most likely to recreate that experience? And so we identified that a lot of the things that she was doing didn't actually generate that result very effectively. Is there selling paints? Lots of people sell paints. There's not necessarily a breakthrough moment associated with that. In the masterclass, a one-day masterclass, really powerful painting experience, but it may not be long enough to actually get, because it needs to be a bit of a journey to get people to that breakthrough moment. It may not be long enough for that. But the 8 to 10 week classes, that was where she was seeing that breakthrough moment happen most consistently. And so then we focus on, okay, if that's the heart of your business, if that is your most important product, how do we then make sure that that product is consistent and growing and becomes the foundation of the income for your business? So 60% of your income can come from that product, and then everything else is a bonus, rather than trying to do, 10 grand here, 10 grand here, 10 grand here across 21 different things. And so, that's what we did. We focused in on her classes. She's now getting, most of her classes are sold out. There's a couple of casual classes she does on weekends that are sometimes sold out and sometimes not. But yeah, that's by focusing down on that one product and going, okay, my goal is not to do lots of different things to generate money, but actually to do this one thing very, very well. We saw her business turn around and her workload reduced dramatically. And you know what the really cool thing was? Her joy, her passion, her breakthrough moment is when she paints herself. And because she was so busy in her work, she wasn't painting. And so she felt drained all the time because she's like, I've just got to do all my work. I've got to do all these things. All 21 things need to be my attention. They're crying out. When it came down to just doing 2 or 3 things, suddenly she had more time to paint. Suddenly she enjoyed her business more because she was bringing her full sense of self to the moment. So I don't know if you know about the research about time versus energy. People are like, I'm so busy, I don't have enough time. Time is actually not the constraint. Energy is the constraint. So if you think about when you had a day off and you were really tired, how much work did you get done on that day? Did you clean up? Did you do your washing? Did you do all those things? Or were you just so tired that you just checked out and did nothing? It's actually energy that makes a decision about whether you get things done or not. And so as creatives in particular, you need to guard that space where you cultivate and renew your energy. Because if you spend all your time in the work zone and no time in that creative space, then you actually have nothing to bring to your creative business.
Mic drop, double mic drop. Holy, there's so much in that. I don't even know where to start there. So one thing that really struck me is that fear, again, that you can't make money with your craft, which is why there's probably another 20 things on top of that one thing that lady does really well. And there's this feeling of guilt, I feel, for creative people, that you should be working harder. The reason why your business is not successful is because you're working harder. And working harder certainly means don't sit around wasting time on your craft. Don't sit around playing the piano or playing the violin or painting or dancing or spoken word or all those different things, writing music, producing, whatever that looks like for you as a creative. How much of your coaching actually addresses those core false beliefs that you cannot make money at your craft, and doing your craft is not actually if an effective use of your time, even though it does bring you energy?
I think it's a huge component. I actually focus on 4 things in coaching: sales, marketing, mindset, and leadership. And once you've got that basic sales bit worked out that we explored before, most of it comes back to mindset. And the question I like to ask people is, if you put Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or somebody like that in the CEO of your business, would it be bigger? Would it be more successful? Would it be growing? And the answer is, of course, yes. So the difference between your business, you are the rate limiting factor of your business. The difference between it being bigger and, getting unstuck and getting moving and building momentum is actually you. And so it's all about mindset. There's that imposter syndrome. I'm not good enough. I'm not good at business. I don't believe in myself. I don't believe in my product. All of those things sabotage people. And you've just got to, you've got to get back on the road and say, looking after myself, I am the fuel of my business. And if I don't look after myself, then I have no passion and energy to bring to the impact that I'm making, which then brings the stories that I love to hear, the breakthrough moments, and like that guy's life who really reconnected with himself and felt that sense of self-worth and purpose. If I don't invest in myself, then I don't get to see that breakthrough.
So good. Now, every artist is a unique person, multifaceted, multidimensional. You take a personalized approach within a defined set of proven parameters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just want to make that really clear that you don't have to be cookie cut. You can be your own self, but within a proven framework that is actually going to get you across that creative chasm. Tell us another story, because we love stories, because that builds the trust factor. So tell us another story, Nathan.
Fantastic. So completely different context. This is with somebody who runs a business in the allied health space. And so you may not immediately think creative, but she is a very creative person. So she actually opted in when I said what I did. And she's like, well, I'm a creative person. And when I try and communicate with my staff, they're like, this is not structured and neat and tidy in the way that I need to hear it. And so I've actually been working with her to, again, she's doing 21 different things, not literally 21, but lots and lots of different things. And it's like, well, where is the success in your business? Where are you generating the most income? Let's get that systematized. So her pressure as a creative is to realize that she's aware that he spends too much time doing too many things. And so the solution is systems, but she tries to do systems for everything at once. And that's just not realistic. And it's actually not important. What you want to do is put the system in at the point where things happen a lot. Where you spend the Pareto principle. So where you spend 80% of your time, that's where you want to put the system in. And so working with her to look at her business and say, okay, if we look at this part of your business, where are people spending a lot of time that doesn't generate you a lot of income? That's where you want to put the system in. And so maybe 10 or 15% of her business needs systems, not 100% of her business. And then in the other part of her business, she wanted to do 40 trainings this year, 40 webinars. But actually, because she's running effectively 2 businesses, she doesn't have time to do all of those webinars to set up the process. Every new thing you do is expensive. You need to design it, you need to create it, you need to test it, and then you need to develop a system around it. And so again, that's the other reason why doing too many things really slows you down, is because you're not aware that doing it once or twice or 3 times until it's consistent is actually probably 5 to 10 times more costly than it will be to do once it's systematized. And so that's a big cost. So what we did, again, is to focus down and say, okay, what we're doing this year is not to try and generate 40 webinars. It's to develop a system for webinars. So what is it that we need to do so that you can do a webinar in a way that's very low cost to you, so you have enough time to run both of your businesses? And once we've developed that system, then you can ramp up and do lots of them.
Where were you in my 20s? That's all I've got to say. Where were you in my 30s? I'll say that too. So for those of us who are chomping at the bit saying, just tell us the price, Sam, tell us the price. Talk to me about what can people go on and get in exchange for their contact details so that they can reach out to you. We were talking about it before we started the show. Is there like a 7-step process, or what have we got to offer people today?
Well, my major passion is to see creatives released into doing more of what they do best, which is that creative stuff. And so the lead magnet that I've created is the 7 mistakes that creatives make that distract them from growing their business. So this is the 7 mistakes that all new creatives make. And it's things like focusing on doing too many things, or not finishing things, or hoping that marketing, like Facebook marketing, organic posts, will generate an audience. Now, I don't know if you know this, but only 10% of people will see any post you put on Facebook. So if you have an audience of 1,000 people, you're not going to generate a business from doing, organic posting on Facebook. You have to look at a more systematized approach, paid ads, or connecting into a network, or some other way of generating higher visibility about what you do. So there's a lot of things that people do, these 7 things, that actually aren't growing people's business. And so you'll find you're spending a whole bunch of time that you don't enjoy because it's not your passion space on things that don't matter.
It's true. I have 39,000 followers right now at the point of filming this video. And it's true what he says about the amount of traffic you get from generating organic stuff. Like the amount of content that I've put out there to get that 39,000 following, I would not want to do it again, put it that way. So I love your approach, Nathan. Do you have any final words of wisdom or consolation for the amount of times that we've spent running off after shiny object syndrome and doing it wrong? What would you like to say in closing to our beautiful creatives who you're not broken, but your system is, and that's okay, because a broken system can be fixed and you don't have to stay thinking that you're broken, because you're not, and neither is your craft. Nathan will fix it for you. Any final words, Nathan?
It was a great sum up. You're not broken, your system is. I'm going to borrow that one. I think if I could say anything to people, it's to find a buddy to do business with. And obviously, as a coach, I'd be happy to sit down with you and explore that and become a consultant and coach and trainer and encourager in your business. But if you're not ready for that yet, find somebody else who can be a cheerleader in your business, because business is a cycle. And sometimes you're going to do fantastically and other times you're going to struggle. And what you want is somebody who can remind you of your successes when you're feeling like a failure. And a business buddy is going to help you to do that. So I would encourage you, if you are a creative in business or you want to become a creative in business, find somebody else who is going to cheerlead with you and learn with you and support you and encourage you, so that in those moments of discouragement, you can be brought back to the stories of success and go, actually, what I do does matter. And what I do does actually make a difference in people's lives, and it's important. And I need to push through this resistance to get to the next success story.
And don't pick another creative to be your business buddy. I'm just going to say, that's a soft sell. I'll give you a hard sell. I've done years of trying to do it myself and trying to do it in like networking groups. And I spent a lot of money and wasted a lot of time learning lessons the hard way. It was not good for my self-esteem. It was not good for my bank balance. And it wasn't good for the fact that, time. So I would recommend to you that you get Nathan as your business buddy. He doesn't have to hard sell, but I will hard sell because I am a creative and I know what it's like to go through misery after misery. Anyway, so thank you for being on our show today, Nathan. You're absolutely amazing. If you would like to take advantage of having a business buddy, Simplify Business Coaching for your creative business, I strongly urge you with all my creative heart to reach out to the link in the description. You can download that 7 mistakes that creatives make that stop you growing your bank balance and help you make you think that you're broken, even though it's just your systems that are broken. Click the link. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. If you have a great business idea or a great product that you'd like to get out to our ever-growing audience, I'd love to chat with you. So reach out to us to get on the podcast today. Once again, this has been the Fair Business Australia podcast. I'm Chat to Beck. Look forward to speaking with you soon. Chat soon, and God bless.
Have you got a great business or community initiative you'd like to share with our podcast audience? We'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us today at fairbusinessaustralia.com.au.